Well, good evening. I'm Greg Fenves, president of Emory University, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's City of Atlanta Mayoral Candidates Forum. First, I want to extend a welcome to the candidates. We're so glad you could be with us here to take part in this important exchange about the issues facing Atlanta. And we look forward to hearing about your vision for the city and your platform for how to achieve it. This program was made possible by a partnership between the League of Women Voters, Atlanta and Fulton County, the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, and the ACLU of Georgia, and Emory University. To our partners, thank you for all you do to promote civic engagement, voter registration, and to protect voting rights. We are grateful for your service to the City of Atlanta, our counties, and our state. Now, if you don't mind, allow me the privilege of saying a few words about Emory. As an institution in the city, our relationship with Atlanta is long-standing. Since this campus was established a century ago, the university has developed many productive partnerships with key Atlanta institutions, many communities within the city's vibrant art scene, and the Atlanta business ecosystem. That bond was further strengthened in 2017 when the City Council voted unanimously to authorize the largest expansion of Atlanta's borders in 65 years, annexing Emory University and our neighbor, the CDC, and bringing 6,400 residents into the city. It was a bold decision, one that created many new opportunities for our university and the city to work together to serve the common good. Now, tonight, we are proud to be part of the forum. An engaged electorate is essential to a thriving democracy. And this evening's dialogue is intended to help voters make informed choices. So I thank you for being here tonight or watching online and asking the questions of the candidates who aspire to be the next mayor of the city of Atlanta. I encourage all registered voters to follow through and make your plans for voting on November 2nd general election. To the candidates, thank you for stepping up to lead Atlanta and for addressing the questions of the voters tonight. Now, I'd like to introduce Andrea Young, Executive Director of ACLU of Georgia, but also an educator, a scholar, and an author, and the daughter of the Honorable Andrew Young, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, a civil rights icon, a global humanitarian, and former mayor of Atlanta. Andrea Young.
Good evening. I am Andrea Young, Executive Director of the ACLU of Georgia, and of course, a resident of the city of Atlanta. Thank you to the candidates for being a part of this important forum, to our moderator, the legendary Jocelyn Dorsey, and to all of you for your participation. Atlanta is the birthplace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and provided a home for the brain trust of the civil rights movement. Atlanta has always had high aspirations for equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And the host organizations host this forum in that spirit. The organizations are the League of Women Voters, Atlanta, Fulton County. The League is proud to be a nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members and the public, empowering voters, defending democracy. Emory University, whose mission is to create, preserve, teach, and apply knowledge in the service of humanity. The Urban League of Greater Atlanta empowers communities and changes lives. We meet people where they are and support them to embark on a pathway to success. And the ACLU of Georgia enhances and defends the civil liberties and rights of all Georgians through legal action, legislative and community advocacy, civic engagement, and education. We are inclusive, nonpartisan, and statewide, powered by our members, donors, and active volunteers. So in that spirit, we look forward to a discussion of the issues facing our community so that we can all thrive together in this great, great city that has meant so much to the world. Thank you all again for being with us. And now the President of the League of Women Voters, Atlanta, Fulton County.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicola Hines, and I'm the president for the League of Women Voters, Atlanta, Fulton County. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who's attending tonight's City of Atlanta Mayoral Forum 2021, both in person and virtually. My role here is just to remind everyone of our format. This is a candidate forum and not a debate. This is an opportunity for all 14 qualified candidates to use this platform to tell the residents of the City of Atlanta why they should be the next mayor. This will be a moderated discussion with predetermined questions from the Planning Committee. If time permits, we will also ask questions that came through our social media channels. Before I introduce our moderator, the lovely Jocelyn Dorsey, I want to go over the rules for the night that were given to all candidates beforehand, just as a quick reminder, candidates. One of the main things is that all of the League of Women Voters and our sponsors are all part of a 501c nonpartisan organization. Your attendance here does not mean that we are endorsing you by any means. No use of the League of Women Voters and or sponsoring partners' logos or destination is allowed without prior written consent from the League of Women Voters. The main criteria for the forum participation is that the candidate must have qualified during the qualifying period established by the state law. Declared write-in candidates are not included in this forum tonight. I believe we're only missing one candidate. Okay. If a candidate should arrive before the start of this panel to test their microphone before the start of the forum, and if a candidate arrives late, we will allow the participant to participate in the panel while it's in progress. However, we'll take a small minute break.
I can't understand anything you're saying. I don't know if it's the mask or the echo in the room.
It might be the echo. Can you hear? No? Technically, we're not supposed to be taking these masks off. Oh, some people can hear, some people can't. Is this a little bit better? Or is it the echo? Farther away? I think it's just the echo. Okay. Is this a little bit better? Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back over the rules if that's okay. Okay. All right. Candidates' appearances do not constitute endorsement by the League of Women Voters, Atlanta, Fulton County, or any of our sponsoring organizations. All of our sponsors are 501c nonpartisan organizations. The main criteria for our forum participation is that the candidate must have qualified during the qualifying period established by state law. Declared write-in candidates are not included in this forum tonight. No use of the League of Women Voters of Atlanta, Fulton County, and or sponsoring partners' logo or destination is allowed without prior written consent. A candidate arriving late will be allowed to participate in this panel while it's in progress. We'll take a small break after the question has been answered by all candidates. The candidate's speaking order will be determined by the moderator in an unbiased manner. Audio or visual recording of the forum may be streamed on League of Women Voters Atlanta Fulton County or sponsoring partnerships, website, and or social media platforms. Any other use of the material requires the express written approval of the League of Women Voters Atlanta Fulton County and their sponsoring partners. All news release must be about the forum will be handled by the planning committee. The moderator will be impartial and nonpartisan. Responses will be limited and time will be strictly observed. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement and 1 minute for their closing statement. They will have 30 seconds to answer a question unless the moderator, with notice to all candidates prior to asking the question, allows more or less time to answer a specific question. Our timekeeper is in the front row. Karen, that is your timekeeper. The moderator is responsible for enforcing time limits. The moderator also will have the authority to interrupt the proceedings to enforce the ground rules. We also have a parliamentarian next to Karen. The moderator may restate the question for you. The moderator may interrupt the candidate if he or she believes the candidate are straying from the subject. The candidates will not interrupt one another when they're answering a question. Candidates will limit their responses to the questions asked and refrain from personal comparisons to other candidates. Personal attacks by one candidate or another candidate or elected official, regardless if it's federal, state, or local, will not be tolerated this evening. Once again, because this is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates will have no opportunity to rebuttal following the closing statements. So once we have the last closing statement, there will be no more responses. Any questions, candidates, about these rules? Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce our lovely moderator for this evening, Ms. Jocelyn Dorsey, former channel. Ms. Jocelyn Dorsey, former Channel 2 WSB-TV Director of Editorial Public Affairs for Atlanta, Georgia. Jocelyn retired from Channel 2 WSB-TV after 45 years of service. She has been the Director of Editorials and Public Affairs at Channel 2 since 1983. From 1973 to 83, Jocelyn was an anchor, reporter, producer, and assignment editor for WSB-TV's Channel 2 Action News. In fact, she was the first African-American anchor of a Channel 2 newscast, as well as the first African-American news anchor in the Atlanta market. Jocelyn was also the executive producer and regular contributor to People, a weekly half-hour public affairs program broadcast on Channel 2. In her management role, she supervised the selection, creation, and marketing efforts for all special events and community outreach programs for the Family to Family Project, a WSB TV community service projects, WSB TV, and radio tours. In addition, Jocelyn was a producer, writer, editor, narrator for various nonprofit organizations' videos. Among her personal honors, Jocelyn was recognized on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives by several members of the Georgia Congressional Delegation for her introduction into the Georgia Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame. She was recently inducted into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame. She has been awarded the City of Atlanta's highest honor, the Phoenix Award, and issued special proclamations by the Atlanta City Council and Fulton County and DeKalb County Board of Commissioners, both for her years of service as well as her retirement. Jocelyn has won numerous other awards for her work with WSB-TV, including 7 Southeast Regional Emmys for editorial excellence from the National Academy of Television Arts and Science. She was the first African American inducted into the same organization's Silver Circle for more than 25 years in the field of journalism. She was also the first woman and first African American to receive the Georgia Association of Broadcasters Citizen of the Year Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award. Her active board affiliation includes the Ohio State University School of Communication and Advancement Committee, UNICEF, USA, the Trust of Public Land, Thanks Mom and Dad Fund, Sisters by Choice, A.G. Rhodes Board of Advisors, Community in Schools, Atlanta Advisory Board, and the Atlanta Victims Assistance Board. She is the member of the Leadership Atlanta Class of 1989, the and she made me sure that that was the best class ever. Jocelyn is the mother of 2 sons, the late Theo Gaber Hewitt and Robert Facil Gaber Hewitt. Jocelyn is a Nana 4 times over. And in 2007, Jocelyn tackled one of her biggest bucket list times ever as an avid motorcyclist, riding her first Harley Davidson from Fairbanks, Alaska to Key West, Florida, 7,688 miles in 21 days as an Iron Torch rider to help raise $250,000 for Special Olympics of Georgia. Everyone, please, a hand of applause for Jocelyn Dorsey.
She should have gotten the horn for the time limit, right? Can we hear the horn a little bit so the speakers will know if you go way over, that's what you're going to get. I'm just stalling to pull out my script. Thank you so much. I've got it. Good evening. Oh, wait a minute. We need to let people know that you're here. Good evening. And thank you all for showing up. I know the weather has been formidable, and I'll be okay. Yeah. The weather has been formidable, and we appreciate you coming out, and certainly appreciate all the candidates for showing up. Thank you so much. And I'm just thrilled to be here. This is an exciting time, and certainly we're going to hopefully cover as many issues as we can, considering all the candidates. And I'm not going to go over all the rules because you've heard them. So I think we're going to dive right into the forum, the 2021 Mayoral Candidate Forum. And you've heard the organizations that have been involved. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So we're going to begin the program with everyone giving an opening 1-minute statement. I'm going to read the candidates in alphabetical order, so there's no partisanship there. And I'd like to begin with 1 minute opening statement, Antonio Brown.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Antonio Brown. Like many Atlantans, I grew up in poverty with my parents in and out of prison. At the age of 15, I dropped out of high school to sack groceries to help support my family. I was able to pull myself up by my bootstraps and overcome the adversity in my life to launch a successful men's fashion brand right here in the heart of Atlanta, inside of Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom's nationwide. Through my love for community, I've had the honor and privilege of serving on the Atlanta City Council, where I've passed over 60 pieces of legislation to address some of the most complex issues this city has ever faced. I'm running to be your next mayor because I believe that in order for Atlanta to succeed, we have to build an inclusive and thriving ecosystem where no Atlantan is ever left behind again. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you all today.
Thank you. Andre Dickens.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Andre Dickens, and I am a native of Atlanta, born and raised here. I was the first in my family to go to college when I went to Georgia Tech to get a chemical engineering degree. I'm an engineer. I like to solve problems. I like to fix things. And there's several problems in the city of Atlanta that we must work on to fix. I want to run the city well, like a well-run, world-class organization, but I also want to make sure it runs well for everyone. I've been a business owner, a technology leader, and I want to make sure that you know that I'm a deacon and I'm a dad since we're here in this church. I lead with integrity. I will run the city honestly, ethically, and effectively, and I will do that every single day as your mayor. My name is Andre Dickens, and I'd love to be the next mayor of the city of Atlanta.
Kirsten Dunn.
And I am excited to sit here and represent a lot of the women that are here, as well as the women that are in Atlanta, as well as all Atlantans. I'm ready to lead this city because our city needs to heal. We have some non-traditional problems that we're facing in Atlanta, and it's going to require non-traditional leadership in order to solve this problem. And I am super excited to be that leader to take Atlanta to healing. Again, my name is Kirsten Dunn, and I'm excited to be here.
Nolan English.
Good evening. My name is Nolan English. I'm a native of Louisville, Kentucky, and I chose Atlanta kind of like I chose my wife. I stepped past a lot of cities when I saw what I wanted. So I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for the opportunity. And should I receive your endorsement as mayor, I'll be glad to make you proud. Atlanta, for me, is home. Now, I brought my children here. They're 10 and 13. I wanted them to see things that you don't see anywhere else in this world. See people that look like you, move like you, and grow like you will. And with that, I want to just say thank you for the opportunity to be here. Tonight marks my 18th night of preaching my first sermon. It was 2 hours long. I plan on doing the same thing tonight. No, never mind. I got the stop sign. So thank you.
Sharon Gay.
I'm Sharon Gay. I came to Atlanta 42 years ago last month to go to Emory to law school, right down the street. I wanted to be involved in public service and public policy. I'd seen the difference that lawyers could make in advancing societies and improving the rights for everyone. I always expected I would go to Washington, but I fell in love with Atlanta. I fell in love with the exciting, progressive feeling of this city, the looking to the future, not to the past, this can-do spirit of people coming together and uniting across all sectors of the city to advance the city. And so I decided to make my home here, and that's where I've been. I've spent some time in city government and state government. I've been mostly in the private sector as a lawyer and as a civic and charitable leader. And I believe that what we need in our city right now is someone who knows how to bring all the different sectors of the city to solve the big challenges we face. And I believe I have the right skills that we need right now.
Mark Hamad.
My name is Mark Ahmad, and I want to take a moment to point out how special this place is for me and my family. My parents were married at the chapel here at Glen Memorial on December 30th, 1977, and it's awesome to get the opportunity to be back here at a place that is so important in my family's legacy. We are at a low point in Atlanta. Violent crime is out of control, and Buckhead wants to leave the city. And through all of this, our elected officials are absent. They're either checked out or too busy running for office. They're providing no leadership and no action. The status quo is not working, and we deserve better. I'm a political outsider, I'm a nonpartisan, and I will bring change. I bring policy solutions, not politics. Most importantly, I will bring ethics, accountability, and transparency to City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. And I must remind everybody that this is a forum. It's not a debate, and we would appreciate people not attacking anybody. Kenny Hill.
Good evening. My name is Kenny Hill, and I'm here tonight because our city's lost its way. Career politicians and corruption have led to crime that's out of control and a city that's more divided than ever. Atlanta deserves a new kind of mayor. You deserve a mayor who will put people over politics. You deserve a mayor who will lead without political entanglements or personal agendas. Transparency and service are things that have been lost, but we need to get on the right track. I'm offering myself to serve you as your next mayor. I have a track record of serving the most vulnerable in our city. I look forward to this discussion tonight. My name is Kenny Hill, and I'm offering myself as your next mayor.
Rebecca King.
Hello, I'm Rebecca King. I'm a community advocate, a mother, and a businesswoman. I decided to run because of our crumbling infrastructure, crime is taking over, and because I want Buckhead to stay in the city of Atlanta. There's great history here. With the organizations that you have that have hosted us this evening, Atlanta has a long-standing history and we need to stay part of the city. But to stay part of the city, we have to have solutions. Solutions to homelessness, solutions to crime, and an infrastructure that works. I'm willing to be that person to jump in, do the work, and make a difference. I'm Rebecca King, and I'm looking forward to being your next mayor.
Felicia Moore. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and all the sponsors. My name is Felicia Moore, and I want to be our next mayor of the city of Atlanta. I started as a neighborhood president, then an MPU chair, worked at City Hall as an aide to a council member, and then became a council member for District 9, representing areas that were very diverse from Buckhead to Bankhead, which is actually Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway and everything in between. I am now the president of the Atlanta City Council. As mayor, I want to bring safety to our city, no matter what corner, no matter what your income bracket. I want to make sure that we are delivering the city services that you dearly pay for and that you deserve. I also want to make sure that we are operating transparently, with ethics, and being accountable to you, the people we serve. Again, my name is Felicia Moore, and I want to be our next mayor of the city of Atlanta. Thank you. Kasim Reed.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and all of the presenting organizations tonight. In 2017, as the president of Emory just referenced, I had the high honor of having Emory University and the CDC raise their hands to join the city of Atlanta. Worked with 2 Emory presidents to make that possible. We also had Eastlake raise their hand to join the city of Atlanta, and I worked to make that possible. But tonight, because of crime and violence, a 58% spike in crime and violence, our police force is down to 1,340 officers. Our neighbors not far from here would like to leave the city of Atlanta. I am a mayor who understands that being mayor is a sacred responsibility, and keeping you safe is a sacred responsibility. I would like your vote and your support. Thank you.
Roosevelt Sears III.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roosevelt Sears III, and I am running to be the mayor of Atlanta. I am here today representing the people of Atlanta who are fed up, who are tired, and who are frustrated. A lot of them couldn't make it, but I've heard their concerns, and that is why I'm running to be the mayor. We have people in place that are making decisions on situations they've never experienced, and it's caused a disconnect, and it's put us in a place where the city does not trust the people that are in leadership. So we're at a phase and we're at a point where the only option is to fight back and to stop Fraud City. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for all the sponsors of this event. Again, my name is Richard Wright. I am a father. I'm a son. I'm a concerned citizen. I moved to Atlanta in 1997 with the GED, and through divine intervention and through a lot of listening to my mother, I ended up going to get my BS in business administration, to go on to get an MBA, and to get a CPA license. I feel that Atlanta loved me, so I must love Atlanta and give back and be a servant to the city. I have the correct skill set, mindset, and temperament to be your next mayor. And I ask you for your support, your trust, your love, and your prayers. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
Good evening, Glenn Wrightson, longtime Atlanta resident. Went to Spring Street Elementary School, Henry Grady High School, Wake Forest University. I attended Emory for one period between semesters. I'm running for mayor because I think the city government needs to be more productive. We talk about having new programs, but we need to reboot the city government and get more for the dollars that go into the city government. My career has been analyzing how money comes into cities and how the money is spent. That is my specialty, to understand how the money comes into the city and how it gets spent for the different programs. I'm the only candidate that's been talking about climate issues. I think we need to talk about slowing the growth with these tax incentives. That's encouraging the gentrification, and there's no backstop for the legacy residents. I'd appreciate your vote. My name is Glenn Wrightson. I'm last on the ballot, but I may be the first to coincide with what you think the city government should provide.
Thank you, candidates. And now we'll begin our questions, and you will have 1 minute each to answer. And we want you to be as specific as possible. And again, not to attack any candidate. And also, really, we want to get your views and what you will do more so than what is wrong. So we would appreciate that. We'll begin with Emory is the largest employer in Atlanta. And together with the Centers for Disease Control, the Veterans Administration Medical Center, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and other businesses along the Clifton corridor, it comprises the largest activity center in metro Atlanta, and that has no direct high-capacity transit access to MARTA or the interstate highway system. So the question is, specifically, how do you plan to support the Clifton Corridor Transit Initiative, which would provide access to thousands of jobs at every salary and education level that residents from every part of the city can access, and that would also relieve traffic congestion? Again, we'll start in alphabetical order with Antonio Brown.
Thank you for the question. First, we would really expand our bus rapid transit to ensure that it is inclusive of all of our residents and that we're building comprehensive networks for our residents to be able to travel to and from essential locations from the corridor and throughout the city of Atlanta. In addition, we would focus on protected bike lanes so that we can increase walkability and various module and transportation opportunities for the residents in the area. I also believe that our MARTA board needs to become a reflection of its ridership. And I believe that that has a trickle-down effect on our residents being able to trust our transportation system. And I believe we need to incentivize our residents to be able to take public transportation, a system in which they can trust and want to ride on, to know that they're going to be able to get to and from their locations on time. I believe these measures must be taken in order to reestablish trust within our communities.
Thank you. Andre Dickens.
Yes, I am excited to have Emory, the CDC, et cetera, here in the city of Atlanta. I was actually the council person that was the sponsor of the legislation for that to occur. I was also on the Transportation Committee at the time when we passed more MARTA, and now I've been the Transportation Committee chairman for the last 4 years. And I've been the only council member in the history of Atlanta to actually create a new department when I created the Atlanta Department of Transportation. So transportation is vital. and it's important to me. And I think it's important to not just be where you're going each day, but to get you where you're going in life. And so it's vital and important that we do get transportation corridor to this Emory corridor. We want to make sure that we adhere to what we said inside of the Moore Martyr plan, which is to look at equity across the whole landscape. That's why in the plan I put the belt line going out to also Camelton Road and also out here to the Clifton corridor. Sequencing that and putting it in a prioritized way is what we will do once I'm mayor.
Thank you. Kirsten Dunn. We're talking about the Clifton Corridor Transit Initiative and how you would plan to support that.
Yes, so when it comes to the Clifton Corridor Transit Initiative, we would just continue with the plans that are in place and actually evaluate what is already, set to happen to be able to bring the corridor and actually expand the transit system as far as Emory goes, considering that Emory is the largest employer and that it has the most people working in the city of Atlanta. It's important that we support those plans and continue them. I'm a person that if it's already something that's in place that works, then let's continue it. Let's support it. Let's make sure we have capital lined up, even like Mr. Dickens mentioned about making sure it's focused on equity. If that's what the city council has already put in place and is supposed to focus on equity, let's stay focused on the goal at hand and put it in place.
Nolan English.
Yes, as far as I would approach the situation first with the MPU to reevaluate what's already put in place, bring in some experts.
Can you speak up, please?
Can you hear me now? All right, thank you. First, I would coordinate with the MPU to see what is in place and to see if it's going to be adequate for what we are trying to do in the corridor. I would bring in experts to help evaluate the situation. We could expand it with some transit orientation type development like at Lindbergh to really solidify what needs to happen in an adequate manner for the volume that comes into the corridor. At the same time, while we're doing that transit orientation or oriented development, we would still want to protect single-family homes in the area. Thank you.
Sharon Gay.
Sorry, trying to get this close enough. I support mobility, and the Clifton Corridor is essential to provide mobility and accessibility of our residents, to get people to and from the jobs that exist here, and make particularly the medical facilities more accessible to our residents. I've been involved in transit planning and policy implementation for over 20 years. I was one of the founding board members of the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority and then was actively involved in an earlier effort to get rail from in Center City to Emory and on to Athens. What was very clear to me is that you need a very clear business plan, which I believe the Clifton Corridor has. I would be an active partner at the table with MARTA to make sure that the city and MARTA were working together to implement the plans faster. We've got a lot of good ideas. We've got a new tax that's providing more money. We need to move more quickly to implement, to move from planning to implementation and get this essential transit process to be a reality.
Mark Ahmad.
Well, this is my wheelhouse. In full disclosure, I worked with H&TB, and they had contracts with MARTA on the Moore MARTA program, and I've previously worked with Jeff Parker, who's the current CEO of MARTA. Right now, in the Moore MARTA program, the Clifton Corridor is slated for streetcar, and streetcar is running about $100 million a mile. It's expensive, and it's operationally inferior to bus rapid transit. So to wait for the money in the Moore MARTA to pile up to bring streetcar to the Clifton Corridor could take a decade or more. If you want transit, which we need, I'm a huge transit advocate, we need to go with BRT. It's about $10 million a mile, streetcar is about $100 million a mile. And we can bring that, we can implement it within a year or two. And that will bring connectivity, that will bring development, and that will bring accessibility and equity to the corridor.
Kenny Hill.
Yes, I agree with Mark that we need to look at the most effective and efficient way The fact is the ridership and the fare revenue for the Clifton corridor will pay for any transit that we invest in it. It has a capacity because of the job centers to pay for itself. And there are not many locations in our city that we can say that about. So we need to move forward rapidly with it, and we need to look at doing it so that it does pay for itself, because we're going to be paying for a lot of the other areas along the Beltline out of funding and bonds and so forth. So it should happen immediately, but it should also be done so that it is effectively utilizing funds.
Rebecca King.
I would incentivize not only employees, but patients need to be incentivized to use the MARTA transportation once provided. Also, you need to hub in the schools, because as someone that's dropping children off or running 2 or 3 errands, it's difficult to use something that takes a full day to get somewhere, you feel. So making certain, and then try different days where you just have public transportation. You have to create behaviors that help this work. It's not going to work sometimes if you just put it there. Giving ridership cards, MARTA cards, and working with the local school system for drop-off points and that last mile of connectivity is critical. DC has in Georgetown the circulator, and it gets you there fast, and it's only $1. I think you need to look at that model and take it further. And I've ridden MARTA many times, and that's where I think it starts with leadership and leading by example.
Felicia Moore.
Yes, transit is a tool that we certainly can use to help us get out of our car-centered culture that we're in. And there are many priorities that we have to address. First and foremost, getting that connectivity that we promised people when we established the Beltline and getting those neighborhoods connected. But the Clifton corridor is also a priority project that will help us to connect with a job center that we have annexed into the city of Atlanta. What we need is priority and money. And so as mayor, I will certainly be working and hoping that we certainly get the money from the federal government that can help us to prioritize some more funds towards transit expenditures that we have, and also working with the Regional Commission and MARTA to make those priorities a little sooner than what they're planning for on the books right now. Thank you.
Hasim Reed.
If I am fortunate enough to be elected mayor, we will break ground on the Clifton corridor before the end of my term. We absolutely need light rail between the Lindbergh station at MARTA and Emory University and the CDC. I happen to believe as we approach passing a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill nationally, that this is our moment. So between having Senators Warnock and Ossoff in place right now, I will aggressively pursue funding from the federal government. We will also use the Renew Atlanta revenue, which is a half a penny. It's currently up for renewal. In my judgment, the Clifton Corridor line needs to be positioned as a first priority for the city of Atlanta and the region. When I was mayor, I placed it as a top tier priority. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor, we will break ground on this very critical infrastructure.
Roosevelt Sears.
So to answer the question, pretty much, I believe it goes back to just looking. I just noticed that the process stopped in 2015. So we would just need to first talk to MARTA and see exactly what has stalled the process. And when in reference to funding, the city of Atlanta could be receiving a lot more funding if they were trustworthy. Unfortunately, I don't see the city receiving, too much more funding if we do not cleanse the swamp, and we have to do it now. So a part of my first 100 days would be to audit and investigate each city department and to ensure that the money that we do have is being spent correctly before we ask for more money. Thank you for the question.
Richard Wright.
Thank you for the question. I'm a CPA, so I'm going to talk a little bit of numbers. Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock are in DC fighting for us with the infrastructure bill. So currently the number that is being proposed for Atlanta infrastructure is $930 million over 5 years. And so I'm going to take some of those funds and fund the Clifton initiative to break ground, because I believe it's very important that we bring equity and inclusion to our transportation system. And so light rail is one of the things that I plan on partnering with MARTA and also partnering with the stakeholders in the community to give incentives to riders to be able to use the transportation vehicle. So those are my plans if I'm blessed enough to be your next mayor.
Glenn Wrightson.
There's such an echo. I may have not heard the question accurately, but I thought it was, what would I do to promote the Clifton corridor?
How do you plan to support the Clifton Corridor Transit Initiative?
I'm hearing promote the Clifton corridor. I want to mention that for years I have been a cheerleader of expanding MARTA. I have said we need to energize the community and have the community commit to building at least 1 mile of MARTA rail per year. I've been saying that for years. For the Clifton corridor, I would take it off the planning board and put it into practice. You've got to move on projects. You can't talk about them forever. I've been known as a person that's less talky-talky and more doey-doey. And we've got to make a commitment to doing something and get active and do it and energize the community. There are benefits. There's obviously benefits. My name is Glenn Wrightson, and I would promote the Clifton corridor.
Thank you, candidates. I would like to emphasize again that this is a forum. We don't want to have blanket attacks. And I don't want to have to call you out individually when I hear them, but I will if we continue to make just blanket accusations that really are not substantiated, and we're not here to do that. We're actually here to hear what your plans are, what are your specifics in terms of how you would see yourself as mayor. So I'll continue with, what are your plans for small businesses, Black-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses to make them more equitable to succeed in Atlanta? And we'll begin with Antonio Brown.
Love to see some diversity in the order.
I'm going to ask you, for your audio's sake, you can back away from the mic a little bit, and then they will pick it up.
Oh, I was just saying I would love to see some diversity in the order in which we speak. But as a city council member, I authored legislation to create a community loan fund for credit disadvantaged small businesses to ensure that we are supporting all of our startup and existing businesses in Atlanta. The community loan fund allowed for small businesses to apply for $50,000 with a 3% fixed interest rate, a 1-year deferment on its first payment, and they could utilize up to $30,000 of the $50,000 to pay down their personal debt. It's the first of its kind in the city of Atlanta and probably in the Southeast. And I would expand that work to ensure that all of our small businesses had access to being able to apply for that loan. I would also remove barriers that have unfortunately kept our small businesses from having the ability to apply for the small business funding in which the city of Atlanta has had available for some of our struggling small businesses, especially during this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Andre Dickens.
Yes, thank you for that question. As someone who was a small business owner for 10 years, I definitely understand the plight of small businesses. Not only how to start one, but how to scale one. When I was on the board of Invest Atlanta for 3 years, I saw that we were really interested in large businesses and how to attract businesses to Atlanta, and that was fantastic, except for I also wanted to see us do more with small businesses, which is why I was instrumental in helping us do facade improvements and really going deep with organizations with low interest loans, no interest loans on things like equipment and improvements for their operations, as well as technical assistance for them to be able to have access to grants. Small businesses don't always have the technical know-how to fill out these grants. The other thing I'll say is the city has to be a good customer of small businesses, advertising these small businesses and buying goods and services. During the pandemic, I published 300 Black-owned restaurants in the city of Atlanta and categorized them by type of business, and that's a way to promote small Black and minority-owned businesses.
Thank you. Kirsten Dunn.
So this question is exciting to me when we start talking about small businesses, because small businesses are truly the heartbeat of our city. And so I think the very first thing that we need to do is we need to ask small businesses what they need. What do they need help with? Don't make the assumption that we know. We have to ask the right questions from small business owners. What do you need? It might look different for a single mother that's a small business owner versus a young couple that's a small business owner as to what they need. So we need to ask the right questions first. And then also even supporting Invest Atlanta and expanding it, but expanding it where we are specific with the niche businesses, the niche business owners for African American women, for women ownership, for even young millennials that are just getting started, that just graduated college, that are wanting to start a business. One Atlanta is where community and city partner together. That is what One Atlanta represents. It's community and city partner together.
Thank you. Nolan English.
All right, thank you for the question. It would be a very simple approach in, first of all, ennobling. That is simply getting out of people's way and allowing them to be who they are and do what they do without a bunch of red tape. I think Atlanta's pretty good about that, especially with regard to small business. But at the same time, the Small Business Administration, which is federal, and SCORE, the Corps of Retired Executives, I think they need an outreach arm to where they are no longer sitting back waiting for small business owners to come to them, but an outreach arm that actually goes to these small businesses, helps them to grow and scale what they actually need to do to be successful. I think that would be the solution for small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question just in case. We're talking about what your plans for small businesses, Black-owned businesses, women businesses, to make them more equitable to succeed in Atlanta.
Yes. We've had great success in our city over the years of attracting large employers, Fortune 500 companies, a lot of technology companies, but it's our small businesses that make the city interesting. It's our restaurants, our shops, our art galleries, our bookstores, and they are essential to the lifeblood of our cities and particularly to the character of our neighborhoods. So I would, as part of our city's economic development plan, have a specific set of plans specifically for small businesses. Help provide access to capital, help provide access to technical assistance and training. I would turn the Office of Contract Compliance into an Office of Contract Opportunity to expand the outreach to small and minority-owned businesses to do business with the city. I'd also build a robust partnership with larger private businesses to help them partner and mentor with smaller businesses.
Mark Hamad.
There's two things I would do to help partner with Black-owned, women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. The city currently has a small business program. We need to expand that. And secondly, financing. So with the existing programs that the city has in place for small businesses, it can be difficult for new businesses or entrepreneurs to navigate the paperwork that is required to qualify and get your foot in the door. So we need to expand that and make it easier to shepherd them through the system so they do get a shot. The system tends to favor legacy contractors who are already in there. Secondly, financing and fundraising has been a barrier for far too long for small business owners. And we need to be a better partner to facilitate that and allow these businesses the financing and the opportunity to grow and become established.
Kenny Hill.
So I run a small business and a nonprofit. And on the campaign trail, I've talked to several small businesses, and there's a consensus that the city of Atlanta needs to streamline the processes of doing business in Atlanta as a small business. From licensing, permits, inspections, everybody just grimaces when I ask them, how was the process of getting your business up and going? That shouldn't be we should be assisting small businesses with the process, not creating difficulty in that process. The other thing that the city of Atlanta can do with the large group of large successful corporations we have in this city, we can develop mentorships for large corporations to mentor small and medium-sized businesses to help them in the areas they need help. And finally, Invest Atlanta has tremendous resources available for large businesses. We need to focus on Invest Atlanta helping small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you.
Rebecca King.
As another small business owner that's constantly trying to retool and make it successful and figure out what needs to be done, it's not only about mentorship, it's about getting the answer when you need it. If you are working your first job and then going and trying to start a business, you need someone available. So I would expand the hours that Invest Atlanta is available and have customer service where you follow the person from start to finish, from the question to the end. We have, I believe, 8 colleges and universities that can be incubators for these small businesses as well. I would also ask that large businesses and the City of Atlanta put on their website how many people, how many minority-owned businesses, how many women-owned businesses they send out contracts to, and ask that they not only mentor but help them in the process. They might not win the first bid, but will they win the second or the third bid? Thank you.
Felicia Moore.
Small businesses are a vital part of our economy and the lifeblood of our city. I, as council president, instituted a program called Atlanta Business Matters, where we provided opportunities for small business owners and first-time business owners to get resources so they could build their capacity and also supply their goods and services to major corporations. I would like to expand on the programs that we already have at the city, but I also want to make sure that we are opening up the opportunities for new entrants in City Hall to be able to provide goods and services to our city by breaking up some of the larger things that we do and make them smaller so people with starting businesses have the capacity to be able to start to build their business. And so those are many things that I would like to see us do to strengthen our small business economy.
Kasim Reed.
I think this is one of the most exciting areas about where we have an opportunity to lead and do better. One of the things that we need to focus on regarding small businesses is paying them faster. My goal would be for our administration to pay under 60 days, because if you want to help a small business, you should pay them. When I was mayor during our 2 terms, we were fortunate enough to go past the $1 billion mark in dollars spent with women. We also had the only city-funded incubator for women entrepreneurs, 15 entrepreneurs for 15 months, and out of those cohorts, several millionaires were made. I think that we should have a separate lane in municipal government for contracts that are under $1 million so that we can give new entrepreneurs and emerging entrepreneurs the opportunity to compete on a playing field where they're not competing against the same competitors that have been winning again and again and again. So my vision for this area is to do much more.
Roosevelt Sears.
I believe, well, first I just want to point out that the city of Atlanta has been under federal investigation since 2017. So it's not an attack on any individual, but the city of Atlanta itself has a record of misuse of funds. But to move forward with the question, it also goes hand in hand with the resources that are not being provided to small businesses. Unfortunately, there has been millions of dollars that have been given for these efforts, but it's just missed the hands of those that really need it. So I believe a lack of resources and also financial literacy. So my administration will create an entrepreneurship school, which will allow small businesses as well as teenagers from the ages of 13 to 35 to come down and actually learn how to operate a business, open a business, file your taxes, because as a small business owner, that's important.
Richard Wright.
Thank you for the question. I own a small CPA firm who is responsible for helping small businesses. So I have an intimate understanding of what small businesses need. They need two things. They need baseline knowledge of business and access to capital. What I want to do is establish a fund working with the business associations within the districts to match a small Black accountant CPA firm, which is another business, with small minority businesses. And so the numbers can be correct from the beginning, and also match them with a mentor from within the area. Second is access to capital. And we're robust about this right here because we don't succeed a lot of times because we don't have the capital. So what I want to do is create a fund through 100 for 100, which is creating identifying 100 Black businesses and raising $100 million in capital for them through investments from PE, venture capitalists, and large corporate America. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
Glenn Wrightson. I'd like to second what Richard Wright just said. We need to be able to fund these small businesses. When somebody starts a business, first thing, they have committed to probably working 80 hours a week. It's not an easy task. As mayor, I would designate an office in City Hall where somebody could come and we would walk them through the procedure to get their TIN number, get their tax identification number. They would show them how to get their registration with the state, with the Secretary of State. Then I would arrange to have some communication where when a project came up for the city to have bids made, they would be notified. We would send a notice to these businesses. We could potentially subdivide some projects and give maybe some favorable recognition to the minorities to make it more equitable. But the funding, as Richard has said, is important, and the guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll turn to another issue of housing. Too many Atlantans, particularly those in communities of color, struggle to find adequate, healthy, and affordable housing for their families. In recent years, 17,000 new housing units have been added within the city limits. However, only about 3,000 were priced at about $1,000 a month or less. So what is your solution to providing more affordable housing, and how would you protect the so-called legacy residents, those who have been in the neighborhood for a long time, from being priced out of their homes due to rising property taxes? Antonio Brown.
Well, for starters, as an individual that has faced housing insecurity myself and was homeless for a period of time in my life, understanding the system currently within Atlanta, I would remove the Office of Housing and Community Development from under the Department of City Planning, and I would make it its separate entity, and I would reestablish the position of a chief housing officer to work with the city agencies and operate as a liaison in coordinating a citywide affordable housing plan in which we could actually activate. In addition to that, I would increase the housing opportunity bond from $100 million to $250 million, where I will allocate 30% of that bond towards a fund that would ensure that we do not continue to displace our legacy residents within the city of Atlanta, and we continue to build affordable housing. Thank you.
Andre Dickens.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Working people can't afford to live in the city of Atlanta. Since 2010, cost of housing has gone up by 50%, but their incomes have only gone up by 10%. And what you find is that 75% or more of the people that live in affordable housing are head of household by women, as we talk here today by the League of Women Voters. So what we're really talking about is a women's rights issue, a need to support women and their families. What I'll do as mayor is I'll build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing in 8 years. That means building on Bankhead Court, Hollywood Court, Bowen Homes, all of this vacant land that has not been developed on by Atlanta Housing Authority. I will also hire a chief housing officer that knows how to build and preserve affordable housing. There's also housing that is affordable right now that we have to undergird by not allowing those landlords to upprice it by being able to have incentives. Lastly, senior citizens, we have to freeze taxes on senior citizens' property so that they can age in place. And I will have a $10 million plus renewable revenue source for the general fund towards affordable housing.
Kirsten Dunn.
Yes, so affordable housing is a major issue in the city of Atlanta. And my plan is to simply put a, excuse me, a 3-tier plan in place that basically we look at what we need to do immediately for people that are being displaced, for people that are unable to afford the housing that they have. We need to look at a moderate term plan as to what we can do within the next 6 to 12 months, and then also a long-term plan of what we're gonna do when it comes to 4, 5, 6, 7 years out. We have to address this problem in 3 tiers, trying to look at just the long term while people are being displaced immediately. Our homeless problem is just increasing by droves. So we have to look at this in 3 tiers. We have to bring in the experts. The affordable housing heroes that already exist here in Atlanta need to be brought to the table and brought to leadership to where they can help create this 3-tier plan to where nobody is being displaced while we're putting things together.
Nolan English.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, how would you, I'll go back to the question. It's basically the solution for affordable housing, and how would you protect so-called legacy residents from being priced out of their homes due to rising property taxes?
Right. Our battle for affordable housing is one on many different fronts. Of course, freezing the taxes on our seniors, number one. And with that, we also need to have a conversation with APS on relieving our seniors of school taxes to help them stay in place. We would have displacement-free zones, especially around English Avenue in Vine City. We would also make sure our housing is safe. All housing that is affordable tends not to be safe, especially in this city. Those would be my main areas of concern. Tiny houses. Tiny houses, we would change a little bit of legislation on that within the city where we can get that established. And then we would have micro units for the baristas, the empty nesters, and so on and so forth. So that way we can create more opportunities for affordable housing in Atlanta. Thank you.
Sharon Gay.
We need to build more housing. We need housing in all sorts of different price levels so that we can make sure the city remains accessible for everyone regardless of their income. We have some parts of the city where there's been a lot of investment, a lot of growth, and it's a real challenge for people to live there unless they're making a high income. We have other parts of the city where there's not been investment, there's a lot of vacant housing. It's in poor shape and it's not near jobs and schools and transit, so it's not where people want to live. So we need a multifaceted strategy of using the city-owned land, the land that Atlanta Housing Authority hasn't developed in 12 years. We've got lots of vacant land and underutilized land all over the city, particularly in corridors and along thoroughfares, and we need a comprehensive strategy to help use our incentives and also work with the private sector and the nonprofits to build more housing, including more affordable housing in those areas. And in the neighborhoods that have not seen investment, we need targeted, thoughtful public investment combined with incentives to make sure that we build more housing and repair and replace the vacant housing and make those neighborhoods healthy, accessible places.
Mark Hamad.
Right now, there's a huge imbalance in the supply and demand in housing. Demand is far outstripping supply, and that's driving home and rent prices higher. And really, that's a failure to build enough supply, especially in affordable housing, for the past decade. And we need tens of thousands of affordable housing units, and we can't go it alone. This is not something the city of Atlanta has the resources or capacity to do. My focus for housing is to partner with developers and bring online these tens of thousands of units in existing high-density corridors and with proximity to MARTA stations. Right now, with the imbalance that there is, investors and individuals are being forced to seek opportunities. They're going into neighborhoods, and that's causing gentrification, that's causing displacement. So as we bring more supply online, we can stabilize home prices, and we can reduce this pressure on displacement and gentrification.
Kenny Hill.
So a lot of these answers you're hearing are good answers. I'm the candidate who's currently doing the work. I run a nonprofit. We take homeless single mothers and their children and place them on property that I own. We transition them from homeless to sustainable in a year's time. We partner them with nonprofits like NACA, the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, that will help them qualify to purchase a home. That helps them build equity and home ownership. That's how we get rid of the disparity. So everybody can say these key words. I'm the candidate who's taking people out of homelessness and delivering them into home ownership. And it can be done for this city on a large scale. Thank you.
Rebecca King.
First, assessing residents or families that are in affordable housing at this moment. What do they need to rise out of affordable housing? Is it job training? Is it education? Partnering with them with someone that can get them into a home that they own. Working with Invest Atlanta and also many nonprofits that are in Atlanta already doing the work. The example to the right. Working together to get these people into a home so that they create their own generational wealth and home ownership where they have pride and where they live. The tax structure with appraisals needs to be retooled. You can look at a budget with a homeowners association. One of the things that a homeowners association does is looks at the reserve study, operational costs, and what's needed. And I think a 2-bedroom, 1-bath should be one price or square feet anywhere in the city. And it could be monitored and give it a fluctuation year or two, but getting away from these shock appraisal prices would keep people in their homes.
Felicia Moore.
Affordable housing is a very critical issue that we're facing in this city. We first start by looking at the property that we have control over so that we can build affordable housing, like the land the city owns, property in the Atlanta Housing Authority, property in our Land Bank Authority. Then we also look to preserving those neighborhoods where affordability still exists. We do that by helping with housing rehab for seniors and others who need help. We do that by helping them not be taken by scrupulous scammers who are trying to take their property. And we also look at our legacy residents to see if we can either cap their property tax or increase their exemption if they're a legacy resident that's been living in the home, let's say 15 years or longer. Those are many of the tools that we can use to try to make sure we preserve affordable housing for existing residents, but also build housing for our workforce and for others who need it.
Kasim Reed.
Our city went from a crisis in 2010 with the mortgage foreclosure crisis to great success after having prosperity and an expanding economy. Atlanta's 131.5 miles, so there is absolutely no excuse for us not to have affordable housing for our neighbors. The way we're going to achieve that objective is we own 877 acres.
I believe that we should have high-quality, not-for-profit developers and for-profit developers build new housing at 60% of the median. I also think that we should follow the model that we developed with the West Side Future Fund, where we raise private resources to offset rising property taxes of traditional residents. Third, we need an Office of Anti-Displacement. So many people are being victimized by scams, by bad loans that are meant to acquire the property, and they need a champion. They need someone who works for the city to help that senior citizen who's being victimized by unscrupulous developers.
Roosevelt Sears.
So as a person who was just homeless 2 years ago, and just over the last 2 months, I've interacted with over 500 homeless individuals. And just hearing the stories and actually talking to see what they really need, it just boils down to the resources. And out of maybe, we have a lot of buildings that are being built, and the requirement may be for only 40 or 30 units to be affordable. There's something called modular building, which we should definitely look into. And my administration plans to build our own affordable housing through municipal enterprise. And pretty much that will afford us to get started now. We don't really have time to wait for developers and people to get a plan together, because we have an issue that we've been going through for decades. So we have to utilize modern day technology to get it done now. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
Affordable housing is near and dear to my heart. And so my administration will appoint a affordable housing Caesar, and me and him will sit down with developers and really talk numbers. Because whether you're a non-for-profit developer or a for-profit developer, the ROI, return on investment, is important. So I know that we have over 800 acres of land that the city owns. So we're going to strategically build on that land over the next 4 years, identifying developers, minority developers that we can work with, and who also subcontract with minority developers. I'm going to use key performance indicators to make sure that that happens. And so we can bring affordable housing to individuals. The next step is to identify individuals who need housing currently. And so part of my plan is to really get started breaking ground and making sure that affordable housing is for everybody. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
I'm real familiar with this issue. The one thing I think we should do is slow down on the tax incentives, because we're attracting these businesses with high-wage employees. They're buying the homes and increasing the property costs. An immediate solution to affordability is for the Atlanta city government to be operating more efficiently so that we don't increase property taxes. We know household expenses are on the rise. Plant Vogtle 2 is coming on. That's higher power bills. Natural gas costs are up. Food prices are up. So it's not just of making affordable available. On protecting the legacy residents, I'm running out of time. I would go to the state legislature and see if we can change the formula for assessment, for property tax assessment to the residential class, and have the commercial come up and the residential down.
Thank you. Turning to another subject, keeping Atlanta beautiful is a major attraction for our citizens and visitors. However, our streets and expressways, in some instances, are seemingly unkept. So what plan would you put in place to ensure that the city maintains its beautification across the board? The second part of the question is, how do you propose working with the state to make sure that it maintains the expressways and streets within our cities? Antonio Brown. I beg your pardon? 1 minute.
I would start by creating a summer jobs program for our youth. I believe right now, giving them an opportunity to help clean the city of Atlanta will help support our Department of Public Works right now, which is currently understaffed and is contributing to a lot of the reasons in which, a lot of the roadways and the areas in Atlanta are not being upkept and beautiful, as we may call it. The other thing that I think is incredibly important is the relationship with the Georgia Department of Transportation and the Georgia Department of Public Works to ensure that they are working in tandem with the city of Atlanta to work and make sure that we are maintaining our communities and our state roads and bypasses and ensuring that we have in place programs to help uplift our communities and keep them beautiful. Thank you.
Andre Dickens.
As a native of Atlanta and someone who loves this city dearly, it is indeed right now disturbing to see the level of trash that is on our streets. The amount of accumulation of litter that has been going on, and it's been about the last year and a half. I won't blame it solely on COVID, but I will say right now we have to get over this worker shortage that we have with the Department of Public Works. And we're working on it with incentives to be able to hire people rapidly and get them trained to do this work. But at the same time, we also have 3,200 individuals experiencing homelessness. And we have programs like Georgia Works and First Step Staffing that can help these individuals earn income while cleaning our city streets. And this is an important tool for us to use right now while we do a housing first model, get them into housing, but also help them clean our streets along with our Department of Public Works. I created the Atlanta Department of Transportation to work with GDOT, and now we are telling GDOT what they have to do on our expressways and our interchanges so that they can begin to clean up the messes that they have that is not city property.
Kirsten Dunn.
I hear a lot of the answers that are coming that I'm thinking about. And so my priority would be, we need to unify. All of these geniuses that I'm sharing the stage with have the exact solutions, but when we come together under my leadership, we will come together as one to come up with the best solution to keep our streets clean, to get the trash cleaned up. But it takes us to come together. Our number one thing that we need to do in the city of Atlanta is unify, to keep our streets clean, to deal with affordable housing, to deal with the crime, everything that we have going on. We're too divided, and we can't survive like that. We'll just crumble. We have to come together. We have to be unified. So under my leadership, all of the ideas that are presented, we will sit down, create a plan together, and execute it.
Nolan English.
Well, the last two just took everything I would say. I totally agree with Mr. Dickens in terms of the housing first model and utilizing those individuals facing a current state of homelessness and having them gainfully employed with the city. I did have a conversation over the summer with the Department of Public Works and the supervisors and the heads there on their hiring blitz and what they consider our homeless individuals that a lot of times are contributing to the trash problem. And they hired several people, and now they're gainfully employed, they're housed in the whole nine, and they're doing it through self-sufficiency. And I would utilize that, number one, to get us to where we need to be in terms of cleanliness as a city. I do believe in working with the youth, and I also believe in incentivizing different small businesses to get out and help that specialize in cleanup. Our whole city needs a good pressure washing, including the expressways. Thank you.
Sharon Gabe.
We need a modern way of delivering services in this city. I would do a top to bottom assessment of our basic city services and modernize, upgrade, make better use of technology and modern systems to make sure that we're most effectively deploying our resources. Because even before this current situation with a work shortage, we weren't taking good care of our streets or our parks either. We have the same problem in our parks, and that's part of what makes the city feel disordered. We can't get the potholes filled, we can't get the trash picked up. So we need to modernize, improve on our systems, take a fresh look at our city budget and figure out how to deliver services more effectively. We do need more active partnerships with the staffing organizations and others that some others have mentioned to make sure that we're providing training and job placement opportunities for people who want to enter the workforce and do this kind of work. As to the state, you just got to show up. We've got to be a much more active partner with the state to make sure that we're collaborating and utilizing our resources as effectively together as we can.
Mark Ahmad.
Thank you. Regarding beautification of the city, this is a priority of mine and one of the reasons I got into this race. We have too many communities and neighborhoods that are full of filth, blight, and trash. No one deserves to live in and around that. It is inexcusable that we have allowed that to persist, especially children living in and around that. I will prioritize cleaning up these areas. It's unacceptable. Regarding our partnership with GDOT, full disclosure, I've previously consulted with GDOT. They have a $3 billion annual budget, and not a lot of that is directed in and around the Atlanta area, and that is for political reasons. I'm uniquely positioned as a nonpartisan to approach our legislators and our governor and partner with them and get more of those funds redirected where they're needed in the Atlanta area. Thank you.
Kenny Hill.
So as a private citizen for the last 6 years, I've sponsored a community cleanup. We've cleaned up the area along the MLK Junior Corridor, removed over 6 tons of trash from the parks in the area and the waterways. This initiative I would take with me to the office of mayor, where each of my staff members would adopt a corridor in the city. Each department head of the city would be responsible for adopting an area of the city, and we would include an invitation to our state partners to do the same. We can try and throw a lot of money at things, but I believe in leading by example, and I know from what we've seen and what I've accomplished already that we can make an impact by just setting aside 2 hours a Saturday, once a month, to help improve the beautification of our streets.
Rebecca King.
Our neighborhood summer programs should be up and running. We should hear lawnmowers every day. We probably hear enough leaf blowers, but lawnmowers and trash pickup. Neighborhood planning units are already meeting. I ended up meeting Neighborhood Planning Unit J and helped them with a neighborhood pickup. That's a great way to get out, meet your neighbors, and start. Our trash services are in dire need in a situation where it is definitely become unsightly. There are garbage trucks where one person drives and it's mechanical and dumps the trash. We need to look to that technology, move forward, and have a schedule from the state as to when they will clean. If it's monthly, quarterly, whatever we need to do to meet them and keep them accountable for the trash that's left underneath our interstates and make our city, when you come through Atlanta, look like it's us. We need to work together to address that.
Felicia Moore.
Our city is indeed dirty, and we see it as we drive along our streets. As our next mayor, what I want to do is make sure that we're not contributing to that dirt. And we're talking about how we will clean up, and I've cleaned up many areas, I've picked up many tires, but what do we do to stop it? And so I want to launch a very good educational campaign to really encourage people who come to our city, as well as those that are here, not to throw the trash down in the first place. But then we can also work with our state partners to see if we can get them on a more frequent schedule on the expressways, and if not, see if we can take over, as we've done in the past at the city, through a contract with them to take responsibility for cleaning up those right-of-ways. But I believe we need to lean very heavily into not trashing our city.
Kasim Reed.
There are some tasks that just have to be done, and that's how I feel about the state of our city as it relates to cleanliness. And we need to bulk up and expand with talented people the number of folks in our Public Works Department who are engaged with cleaning and maintaining our thoroughfares. And we also need to have private sector partnerships if we can't hire enough talent. Our downtown, our city streets, our cityscape should be like a fresh market every day. That's where we need to go. And I think the key to that is being able to partner with the state government, with the governor's office, which is a 335-step walk away from the mayor's office. I served in the Georgia House, the Georgia State Senate, and had a very strong working relationship with our former governor, Nathan Deal. And that kind of relationship with Governor Kemp is what it takes to get the job done and move the needle.
Roosevelt Sears.
So, like, in agreement with some of the other candidates' suggestions, which is mobilizing the youth, I believe, with this issue opens up the door for a lot of opportunities when it comes to giving them something to do during the evening times. Instead of, selling water, they could be assisting the city or working for the city. So actually looking at or working with human resources to look at the job descriptions and make sure that, first of all, it's legal for them to be performing those duties for the city, and then looking into making it happen. The second part of that is accountability. So holding apartment complexes, gas stations, buildings, just, everywhere you drive and you see trash, whoever owns that, you need to be the city should be holding them accountable for that trash, imposing fines and enforcing the regulations that are already in place. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
Yes, what I plan on instituting is a monthly cleanup program. I plan on identifying about 100 youths and promoting a monthly cleanup plan with the mayor. And so I plan on have a robust investment in cleaning the city with our youth. And as Roosevelt said, to give them something to do and also teach them skills. The second part that hasn't been mentioned is the homeless problem that we have. And that's where a lot of the trash comes from. And so what I plan on doing is having a TIPS program, and that's transferring individuals back into society. And the focus of that is getting people off of the streets. And so that's how we're going to keep our streets cleaner, as well as work with the youth to get them to see the incentive of having a clean city, because a clean city is a city that more people will feel one with and ownership with. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
This question involves civic pride, and if it's not the easiest thing to instill in people, but I would strive to instill civic pride in our citizens. I would establish a large recycling center and have hopefully the homeless, some of them, sort some of the recycling materials. I would restrict plastic grocery bags, or try to restrict plastic grocery bags. It's a matter of leadership and enthusiasm, and I would ask that the city employees be trash picker-uppers. If I'm an employee of the city, I pick up trash if I see a piece of trash as an employee. And as far as the state and the interstates go, I would say, let's clean up our front yard, and then I would go to the governor and say, we're cleaning up Atlanta. We want you to clean up the interstates and the state roads.
Thank you, candidates. We have finished the 1-minute round, and there's going to be a 30-second round now we're going to call rapid fire and allow you to answer in 30 seconds or less. And I will start with you, Antonio Brown. Are you in favor of Buckhead's seating from the city?
I do not support Buckhead seceding from the city. I believe what Buckhead wants, from Buckhead to Bankhead, we all want the same thing. We want to keep our community safe, we want our roads fixed, and we want our businesses supported. But I think that we have to start shaping the conversation that it's more than just Buckhead that feels unheard in this city, and it's more than Buckhead that feels like they've been left behind. There are several underserved communities in this city that feel the exact same way that Buckhead does today.
Andre Dickens.
Yes, as someone who has lived in Buckhead, lived in Southwest Atlanta, Northwest Atlanta, and Midtown, I can tell you that all communities want to feel safe, and they want to feel heard, and they want to have a clean city that has all of the city services taken care of. Buckhead wants that as well. And so when I'm mayor, I'll make sure that Buckhead sees it by having a safe city with my Safe Streets Atlanta plan, but also that the service delivery of the city matches the expectations of everyone in Buckhead all the way out throughout the rest of the city of Atlanta. Thank you.
Kirsten Dunn.
I'm not in favor of Buckhead succeeding. I think that it comes down to unity again. I say unity, unity, unity. I hear the concerns of Buckhead, and I agree with their concerns, and they need to be addressed, but we need to address it together. Dividing is not going to get us where we need to be. We have to come together. We have to stay together.
Nolan English.
I am not in favor. I do believe in Atlanta United, and that includes Buckhead. I do believe Buckhead, when we put our crime situation to rest, they will no longer want to secede from the union, for the simple fact that crime will not turn back when they see a City of Buckhead sign. Okay? They will not turn around and go the other direction. They will want to be a part of what we have going on in Atlanta, so that way we together rid all crime in all of our neighborhoods as one. Thank you.
Sharon Gay.
Get stuck. My mother grew up in Buckhead, so this one sort of pains me. The idea that my mother's childhood home would no longer be part of the city is hard for me to imagine, because Buckhead is a part of the city of Atlanta. But for the residents who are thinking about this, I hear you. Your concerns are valid. They deserve to be taken seriously. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to have your concerns addressed. What I would encourage people in Buckhead to do is focus on electing new leadership this November and hold those new leaders accountable for the change you seek.
Mark Ahmad.
Full disclosure, I'm a Buckhead resident. I believe that we can be stronger together. The reality is, this will likely be on the referendum in November 2022. The next mayor is going to have a very short time frame to put boots on the ground and show action and demonstrate that they can be responsive to Buckhead's concerns. So we need to target the undecided voters in Buckhead, because they're going to be asking themselves, why should we remain as part of Atlanta?
Kenny Hill.
Citizens of Buckhead are frustrated and fed up. Career politicians and corruption have gotten us to this point. We need new leadership to bring us together. I do not support them separating themselves from Atlanta, and under my leadership, we will provide the solutions that we need to remain united.
Rebecca King.
I'm a Buckhead resident, and this is why I decided to jump in. Crime will still be there. Homelessness will still happen. I met with Bill White and said, what would it take? If I'm your mayor, because I want Buckhead to stay in the city of Atlanta, what will it take? We will still be buying services from Atlanta, and we need the efficiencies. It's not just greed, as I've heard people say. It's about receiving the services. And when you look around, all of the city of Atlanta needs its services and to be efficient. So I think that we can improve and show that we can stay.
Felicia Moore.
I believe in a unified Atlanta, so that means that I do not support cutting away any part of our great body, which we call Atlanta. Their issues are valid issues, and they're issues that are shared across the city. And on day one as mayor, I will be working aggressively to address those issues. And if by some miracle they are able to vote on it by November 2022, I would hope to have demonstrated the leadership that they see and the majority of the people in that area will not choose to leave.
Kasim Reed.
We have about 1 year as a community to persuade folks who live in Buckhead not to move forward with a ballot referendum. I do not support secession of the Buckhead community. But what's important right now is we show that the current situation is a moment in time and not a permanent change of condition. Within 180 days, we will turn the tide of crime and violence and give the community of Buckhead confidence that they can stay and be safe.
Roosevelt Sears.
I do not support the annexation of Buckhead. However, I do support it being on the ballot. We live in America, so you should have a decision on who your leaders are. We don't live in a dictatorship, so if a community wants to make a decision on their future, then they should be afforded that right. Like Rebecca, I have been in close talks with Bill White, and he says it's going to happen, but we will see. So I support the ballot, but I do not support the annexation.
Richard Wright.
I do not support Buckhead seceding from Atlanta. There was a study done by Buckhead in 2019. They put $232 million into the city budget and got $132 million worth of services back. Also, 75% of Southwest and South Atlanta residents spend about 75% of their disposable income in Buckhead. So what I want is for us to stop talking at each other and talk with each other. And I plan on having monthly town hall meetings, multi-district, where we can talk together so we can plan on staying together.
Thank you. Glenn Wrightson.
The process has to go through the state and then it has to be voted on. But what we have is a disgruntled spouse. And the marriage counselor is telling the city of Atlanta, absent Buckhead, to provide the services in a proportional setting as to the revenue that's coming in from Buckhead. With new leadership, I predict that Buckhead would not seek to move from the city of Atlanta.
Next subject. Aside from public safety, what would be your top priority if elected mayor? Roads and transportation, housing, environment, or energy and utilities? Antonio Brown.
My number one priority is going to be creating living wage jobs for residents in the city of Atlanta, because it doesn't matter how much affordable housing you have in the city or what great transportation system you have. If they can't afford those things, then they don't matter. So I'm going to focus on a $250 million workforce development bond, which is currently being studied by Georgia State University to create living wage jobs so that every resident has an opportunity to succeed and prosper in this city.
Andre Dickens.
If I had to go by your list, it would be housing, but I truly believe the exact same thing he said. I want to be the jobs mayor. I will create an Atlanta Department of Labor to make sure that we equip people to get these fantastic jobs that are in the city of Atlanta, to move our children towards a workforce plan so that they can have summer jobs, but also that we work with the unions to do training and apprenticeships, but also to use my Tech Bridge program to train, which has already trained hundreds of people for free to go from poverty to prosperity. This is how you help with affordable housing and all the other challenges in the city. Thank you.
And I think everyone would believe in jobs, but the question was, what is your top priority among the choices of roads, transportation, housing, environment, energy, and utilities?
Housing.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement with housing. Housing would be the next top priority. Where we live and how we live is very important to our livelihood. So it would be a priority to make sure that the residents of Atlanta have affordable housing and housing that they feel comfortable and proud to live in.
Nolan English.
It would definitely be housing. from the top to the bottom, from homelessness up to just anyone working a 9 to 5 on a daily basis. It would be housing. We don't realize how much that plays into everything that goes on in this city, even the crime problem. When people are battling over meager resources, then we see crime. When they are fighting to feel safe in their homes, they join gangs and whatnot. We have a lot of single-parent households that need to be
Thank you.
supplemented. Thank you.
Sharon Gay.
My number one goal and priority is to make sure everyone has the opportunity to live in a healthy, safe neighborhood. And you would need to do all of those things. Housing is probably the number one priority, but for some neighborhoods, transportation may be the most important thing. For others, environment may be the most important thing. I think a mistake our city often makes is it makes decision-making top-down and has the same approach for everything. I don't think those things are all going to be equal priorities in all parts of the city, so you've got to have a bottom-up strategy to prioritize.
So your answer is housing?
I don't really like the question, but most likely housing is the number one thing for most neighborhoods.
I'm trying to get everybody to please stick with the question. Mark Ahmad.
I've been very clear and explicit from day one. My second priority, aside from crime, is basic city services. So that's infrastructure, roads, making sure we have safe sidewalks, and making sure our neighborhoods are clean. My number three priority is homelessness. We have been failing our most vulnerable citizens for too long.
Kenny Hill.
So I'm currently in the space of people who are homeless and taking them into sustainability. So housing has to be the priority. When you get someone housed, their options open up to make their life a better life. And we have to do that in Atlanta. We have to move people from poverty to sustainability.
Rebecca King.
Roads and transportation. Gravel roads, the pothole that grabbed my tire after only a 2-month-old tire. And that, by taking care of our crumbling infrastructure, roads and transportations, people can get to work if it's efficient.
Felicia Moore.
Housing for our unsheltered population on a very large spectrum, from those who are elderly, those who are single, women or men, those with families. Housing for those who are on the lower spectrum of income. Housing for those who work in our city and work for our city that are not able to find housing for what they get in pay, and as well as for housing for first-time homeowners and others who are struggling to meet the needs of the market.
Kasim Reed.
My second priority would definitely be housing. It would be galvanizing the entire city of Atlanta, including the corporate community, to take the real estate that we own today, to partner with high-quality for-profit and not-for-profit developers, and bring real estate construction, high-quality construction that all of us would enjoy living in, out of the ground at 60% of AMI, using city-owned land that we own in fee simple tonight.
Roosevelt Sears.
So to answer the question, it would be housing, and my administration would create affordable housing, rent-to-own options. Like I said, I believe we shouldn't keep putting all of the work on developers and outside entities. The city should take some accountability and provide affordable housing for its residents that are paying taxes. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
Housing would be my second issue. The Brookings Institute did a study, and in Atlanta, only 30% of Black residents own homes. And the study also found that the average median house value for homes in the Black neighborhood was $150,000. I plan on committing to having Black ownership at 50% before the end of my administration. I believe that home ownership is the first step in creating generational wealth, and I will commit to making sure that more minorities, in particular African Americans, own homes. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
Of the choices, housing would be the priority. because affordable housing near MARTA stations alleviates conditions on the roads. It also helps the transportation, and you use less energy. So affordable housing near a MARTA station accomplishes more than just that one priority. It's just important, that's all. It's obviously a priority.
Thank you. Last quick round question. If you could triage a City Hall department right now, which one needs surgery immediately? Antonio Brown.
Well, I wouldn't say surgery, but I would really focus on our Department of Public Works. I believe that they're having difficulty with staffing levels. We've just brought on board a new commissioner, Commissioner Wiggins, who's doing an incredible job. And I would really revamp the department to create more opportunities for our residents to be able to engage in assisting and beautifying our communities and making sure that we're putting everyday people back to work through the opportunities that exist within this department.
Andre Dickens.
That's a fantastic question, by the way.
I wish I could take credit.
I think it should be our Department of Procurement. Our processes take too long to get through. It took 18 months to be able to procure Cascade Road project, the Safe Street, the Complete Streets project. 18 months. It takes Cobb County 4 to 6 months to do that. And I actually want to do a hackathon like we do in technology community on several departments, permitting departments, licensing, and our constituent services department.
Kirsten Dunn.
I would say our Department of Finance. We need to really evaluate how money is being spent and why we've had so many issues over the years to where we can correct and really get out of the deficit. We've operated in the red way too long. So it would definitely be the Department of Finance. We follow the money, we can see where the problems are.
Nolan English.
I agree with all of them on that. But it would be Public Works to include our arborist. We're having too many trees cut down in the city of Atlanta by homeowners unknowingly committing violations and whatnot, rather than being educated by our arborist and Department of Public Works on what to do, how to do, the correct way to remedy a tree that has fallen during a storm, the whole nine. So I would say Public Works to include our arborist division.
Sharon Gay.
I also would choose procurement. It affects absolutely every element and every department of city government. We take too long to let contracts for bid. We take too long to make decisions. It's too hard to bid. People don't trust the process. They don't think it's fair. They don't get paid in a timely manner. And so we don't have enough people bidding on city jobs because it's too hard to work with our purchasing department. It's also where a lot of our corruption is formed. And so I would bring in outside experts, absolutely modernize, make a 21st century approach to purchasing and contract execution and bill paying.
Mark Ahmad.
Does the mayor's office count?
No.
I'm just kidding. I would have to say the Department of Public Works. People have been complaining about trash pickup, yard waste, and we have to wonder why. We're hearing about equipment issues, staffing issues. 3 years ago, there was no issue picking up trash, and now all of a sudden there is. We have to wonder what is going on. So that needs immediate attention and immediate triage.
Kenny Hill.
Yes, I would focus on our public safety, our police department. Crime is the issue. We need to get officers hired. My website has my full plan. I can't give it to you in 30 seconds, but I would focus on public safety.
Rebecca King.
License and permitting. Digitize the whole city. Everybody should be able to log in, find something, get their permit. Even the state is going to a liquor license that's available online. We can meet that need, get these businesses back up and running quickly and efficiency with more technology at the city.
Felicia Moore.
I would pick all departments, but if I had to pick one, it would be the one that people are most impacted by right now, and that's our Public Works Department, because service delivery has be non-existent in many areas, particularly in yard waste. And so we would need to get in and make sure that we're able to provide the service because people are paying for it and they deserve the services that they're paying for.
Kasim Reed.
I would focus on triaging the department where our arborists reside. Atlanta's tree canopy is like our ocean, and the amount of clear cutting that is going on in our communities really does place that at risk, and we should aggressively move to protect our tree canopy. So my focus would be the unit that houses our arborists.
Roosevelt Sears.
If we want to know why Atlanta is the way it is now, we have to follow the money. So I would dissect the department that oversees the city's checkbook system. I spent a lot of hours looking at some disturbing information, and I believe that that's the first step. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
The first department I would look at is the Department of Parks and Recs. Currently, we spend about, CPA me again, we spend about $151 per citizen in Parks and Recs and a $44 million budget. I think that we can look there to really establish jobs for our kids as part of that budget. And so we can get kids to working and off the streets and not of doing illegal activities. So Parks and Recs is where I would look to first. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
I'm in an audio blind spot over here.
The question was, if you were to triage a city department right now, which one needs surgery?
The department that needs surgery, emergency surgery, is the Department of Public Works. The Department of Public Works is visual to the community. When you see 8 men at a work site and one man's operating a pressure washer and the other 7 are on their pocket phones or sitting in the trucks, that sends the wrong message to the community, particularly Buckhead. Buckhead doesn't want to see 8 men on a crew with 1 man operating a pressure washer. Public Works is number 1.
Thank you, candidates. And we did promise that we would take 1 question or 2 from the audience. We may only have time for 1 because I know you all may be on schedules. Obviously, we have not talked about the elephant in the room. And so we are going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is crime. Hiring additional officers, people are talking about all the time. But how would you engage the community and the police to work together to stop crime? Antonio Brown.
As a council member, I enacted one of the first community policing units on MLK and Lowry, which is one of the highest crime-ridden areas in Atlanta. We were able to reduce crime by 57% in 4 months. And we did that by requiring officers to get out of their cars and to build relationships with the communities, our small business owners, our residents, our college students, to really work with them to understand a lot of what is happening in these communities before we start seeing incidents like unarmed black people in this city continuing to be killed at the hands of our police. So these are some of the measures in which I would take to help mitigate these issues. Thank you.
Andre Dickens.
Yes, I was the first candidate to publish a plan called my public safety plan, which is a Safe Streets Atlanta plan. And it's a balanced approach to safety and justice. It's a way to be smart on crime. And so that plan includes hiring more police officers, but making sure they are trained in the 21st century policing model to be able to have conflict resolution, de-escalation techniques, and also racial sensitivity, to also empower APD to have community-based policing. This is where the community and the police work together like I did in 2017 when I was the public safety chairman where we had a lot of community walk and talks, taking officers out into the community to see and to work with the neighborhood associations, and also to be able to do youth programs like my midnight basketball program, and now we've added boxing to that, things to keep youth active even at night when mom or dad may not be at home. These various things are a way to have the community and the police tied together to be able to bring about public safety in our city.
Kirsten Dunn.
It comes down to unity again. It's like I'm talking about unity every time because that's what it comes down to. And what it really matters is we can do the Ceasefire Initiative. The Ceasefire Initiative is where the community is partnering with law enforcement. As the community citizen, we can't sit back and just, it's all on the police to be able to bring crime down. We have to work together. And with the Ceasefire Initiative, the community and the police officers join together to be able to bring crime down. But also, we have to wage a war on crime, but a love for people. 1 in every 3 African American people have been incarcerated or have an immediate family member that has. It is plaguing our city. We have to wage a war on crime, but a love for people by providing resources, by providing inclusion and understanding. And that includes allowing police to be able to tell us that they're real people, that we can gain trust to them again. Because right now, the community doesn't trust the police force.
Nolan English.
It's almost pointless to have officers and people, average citizens, engage one another on a friendly dialogue. And once that call happens, something different happens with the police officer. When that call happens, we have to have the right people in place, and that requires experience. And what I propose is that we go recruit from our closer, more adjacent military posts, MPs that are retiring. If I place before you a 37-year-old man who says, I need a job, a civilian, versus a young man who has been in the military about to retire at age 37, 38, who has 20 years experience in diversity, rules of engagement, lethal and less than lethal force, then we need to have the right people in place so our people feel safe and they understand, have a full understanding of what it means to be community. That's what's going to bring unity amongst us Atlantans. Thank you.
Sharon Gay.
We've got to rebuild the bond between the police and the community and the police. And it's been broken on both sides. From the police side, we've got to support our officers. We've got to let the police know that we support them, that the mayor has their back, but we need to be clear about what we want them to do and hire the right people, give them the right training, give them the right support to do those roles in a 21st century manner. But we also need to get the police back out into the neighborhoods. They need to know the people they're working with on a daily basis, need to know the owner of the corner store, the school principal, the pastor down the street, and to know the kids. Because the best way to stop crime is to stop it before it starts, and that really includes rebuilding that bond between the police and the community and the neighbors they serve.
Mark Ahmad.
When we talk about crime, we have to focus our policy solutions appropriately. The lack of APD is not the cause of the spike in crime. Given the circumstances, they have been doing a decent job. They are understaffed, they are overworked, but they are not the cause of crime. The latest Atlanta repeat offender report that was issued indicated that 75% of repeat violent offenders were not sentenced to additional confinement. When there's no accountability for violent repeat offenders, they're going to continue to offend, putting our community in danger. More police will help, but it is not the ultimate solution. One of my solutions for the police is to focus on better and positive outcomes and interactions that they have with the community. It takes more than a dozen positive interactions to overcome one negative interaction. So when our police interact with the community, they have to get it right, and they have to get it right the first time.
Kenny Hill.
So my website has a full plan on community engagement with police, and includes, as we recruit these several hundred officers, that during their training, they are trained to become mentors in our Atlanta public schools so that they are engaging the community with young people who live in the communities that they will serve. And that's going to build a bond between the police and the people in the community so that when that officer shows up on a call, this is not the first time he's come into the community, and it's proven it's very difficult for an officer to use excessive force on a community that he's served in, on a community he's invested in. So we have to bring them together intentionally, not waiting until there's a need for enforcement of the law for the officer to become introduced to the community. Thank you.
Rebecca King.
It's not only about hiring more police officers, it's about expanding the pre-arrest diversion program. Right now it only runs, my understanding, Monday through Friday, 7 to 7. As we know, crime doesn't have a clock. And so we need to expand that program to get also to the root cause. I mentioned licensing and permitting because when a bar has license as a restaurant but then stays open too late and spills out into the street, and then there are problems at night with that, we're putting our officers in reactive situations instead of being proactive. They're already at our neighborhood planning unit meetings. They need to be out in the community, going to events, and being at schools where, again, they're not put in a reactive situation. We're in proactive policing.
Felicia Moore.
Can I get you to repeat the question?
The question was, sorry about that. Basically, what would you be doing to reduce crime? How would you join the community and the police department to make the community safer and bring down crime?
Thank you for repeating the question. So I believe there are many ways that we can enhance the communication between our community and our police department. We can start with our schools, reinstituting the old school officers-friendly program so our kids can interact with officers on a friendly basis. We can also get going again with our community and neighborhood watches, expanded to business watches, high-rise watches, apartment complex watches, so that we're all being a part of it. And then I love this program that we had, and sometimes we have it. It's called Clippers and Cops, where people meet in a barber shop and have real raw conversations with our officers about what's happening. And they have give and take. And sometimes it's really raw conversation, but it's a good conversation to have. And that's what we need to do, is get out in the community and meet the people and make sure that our police officers are engaging and hearing from our citizens.
Kasim Reed.
There's only one person on this stage that's been responsible for keeping the people of Atlanta safe as mayor. When we had that opportunity, we hired 900 police officers, recruited an outstanding police chief in the form of George Turner and Chief Shields, and we made the city the safest city it had been in 40 years. What we have to do now is partner with the Atlanta Police Foundation, hire 750 police officers, and then we need to have a community conversation and assure folks that we're going to train our officers in a proactive manner, but that police officers are going to have due process. And then we're going to go to shift changes and roll calls and look our police officers in the eye and ask them to re-engage in the process of keeping our city safe. It's unfair to have 1,340 police officers policing a city of 500,000. We can rebuild this relationship, we can restore our sense of community, and we can be the Atlanta that you know and love.
Roosevelt Sears.
So a couple of pieces of legislation that I will introduce is the creation of the People's Patrol, which will be comprised of 1,000+ citizens with veterans and social workers, enabling them to respond to non-emergency calls, taking some of the tension and the workload off of officers. The next thing would be to create a protect and serve officer quota, requiring officers to engage with the community, stop by a school, counsel a group of youth teens, do something that promotes the public safety of the residents. The next thing would be to relocate habitual violent offenders, placing them in a long-term rehabilitation facility that is along the lines of life rehabilitation. And lastly, it would be to legalize marijuana within the city limits, opening the door for billions of dollars in tax growth, as well as small business growth. Police spend about $4,300 per arrest, which is a waste of funds. Thank you.
Richard Wright.
Yes, the relationship with between APD and the citizens is one of the fundamental 4 relationships that I plan on improving on. The way to improve on it is to have more communication, more transparency within APD. I plan on moving Atlanta from policing districts to district policing. And district policing is where each district has a major who's responsible for the public safety of that district. That will allow for a greater penetration. There was a New York University study done that for every new officer hired, that's 0.10 of a homicide that was prevented. So we hire 500 new officers just by doing the math. That'd be 50 people saved from a homicide. So I believe in communication with APD and the citizens, and that's by officers getting out of their cars and interacting with business owners and with citizens within the community, introducing themselves and making it known that they're here to protect and serve and also to prevent crime. Thank you.
Glenn Wrightson.
Before I answer the specific question, I want to go on record and say I would reopen the city jail and put the bad apples, the repeat bad apples, under incarceration. The issue of police and community involves trust, building trust, and the trust has been broken in both directions. It's not a quick fix. It's greater visibility. We'd have to ask good questions. Do we have a police officer have lunch in a school cafeteria? Do we have traffic directing, police officers directing traffic? Do we have foot patrols? We need to detrain some of the officers, and we need to train the public, I think, to have an appreciation for the police. That's going to be a difficult thing, but respect is something that you earn. You command respect. And if the city government is operating at top efficiency and top productivity, that carries over into the community. We'd have a better community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, candidates, and thank you for paying attention to time. We really appreciate that and answering all the questions. We're going to have the final round with closing statements of 1 minute each, and we'll start with Antonio Brown.
Thank you for everyone being here today. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting something different to happen. As a city, we are standing on the precipice of Atlanta becoming this great international city we talk so much about, or becoming a city we don't recognize. As mayor, I will create a socioeconomic shift in the economic class system in Atlanta. If you are living in poverty, I will work with you to move you to the working middle class by providing you access to a living wage job and opportunities, along with wraparound services and support. And if you are in our working middle class, I want to provide you access to capital to launch small businesses, because our small businesses are the heart of our economy. Through this process, we can create an inclusive and thriving ecosystem where no Atlantan is ever left behind. Thank you for this opportunity.
Andre Dickens.
Yes, thank you to the organizers of this event. These are vital pillars in our community. These organizations represent some of the hardest working institutions that bring about change in our community, and I've worked with each of them in one way or another. I want to be your mayor so that we can make sure that this city is no longer a tale of two cities, one that has a lot of prosperity, but a whole lot of multi-generational poverty. I want to make sure that we have 20,000 units of affordable housing in 8 years. and have a Department of Labor that allows people to move from poverty to prosperity like I do each day with my technology program at TechBridge for free. I want to make sure that we have an Atlanta Public Schools that is tied hand in hand, locked arms with the mayor's office and the city hall. We must have a prosperous Atlanta and an equitable Atlanta, but we can't do that without having a safe Atlanta. And I'll make sure that we keep Atlanta safe. I'm Andre Dickens, and I want to be your mayor. Thank you.
Kirsten Dunn.
Thank you, everyone, for putting together this event. Everyone that worked behind the scenes to make it happen. Thank you so much. This is incredible. I am the best option to be the 61st mayor of Atlanta because it's time for our city to heal, and it's time for our city to unify, and it's time for us to come together to solve problems. I'm a leader that's going to allow your voice to be heard. You'll no longer have to sit on the sidelines where things are being voted on that you don't know about, simply because you'll be able to go to a One Atlanta app and know exactly what city council is voting on that day, at that time. Your voice is welcomed under my leadership. It's time that we unify. My name is Kirsten Elise Dunn. It's the third name on the ballot. Let's get it done with Dunn.
Nolan English.
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters, Emory, ACLU, the Urban League. I want to, first of all, point to an old adage that says, an army of lions will always be defeated by an army of lambs. Doesn't make sense unless you add in the leadership. An army of lions led by a lamb will always be defeated by an army of lambs led by a lion. Leadership is critical, and we see that everyone up here is a lion. All of you out there are lions, and leadership united is critical, and that's what I plan to bring to the city of Atlanta, to where we are no longer fighting over Atlanta, but we are fighting together for Atlanta. We have to understand that we're not always the smartest people in the room, and we have to bring everyone to the table so that we are Atlanta united. Get in the game. I'm Nolan English.
Sharon Gay.
Yes, thank you to our hosts and to our moderator, who had a tough job tonight. It was a great opportunity to be here and to talk with all of you. Atlanta is an important city, and we are adrift. We are at risk of losing what makes us special and successful. We obviously have this unacceptable increase in violent, brazen, random crime that we must get under control. But what really is holding us back is racial disparities, whether the outcome is income or education or help. Our differences in outcome by race are among the most unequal in the country. That cannot stand. I'm running for mayor because I want to change that. I have spent years of my career working to bring business and civic leaders and neighborhood leaders and faith communities and our great colleges and universities together to solve complex problems and make good things happen. That is exactly what we need to do in the city of Atlanta today.
Mark Ahmad.
The next mayor of Atlanta will have very difficult decisions to make. And if we continue with the same status quo candidates, those decisions won't get made, kicking the can farther down the road, putting us in an even worse position. I'm not afraid to make difficult decisions and decisions that may be unpopular. We have too many career politicians who focus only on themselves and focus only on putting themselves, not the city, in a better position 3 or 4 years from now. This short-term selfish thinking will continue to dig us deeper and deeper into a hole. That's not me. I don't care where I am 4 years from now. I care where the city will be 10 years from now. I will bring leadership, decisiveness, and action to City Hall. Most importantly, I will repair the trust with the citizens of Atlanta by restoring ethics, accountability, and transparency at City Hall. Thank you.
Kenny Hill.
Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. I started out tonight by saying that Atlanta needs a new kind of mayor, a mayor who will put people over politics, a mayor who is selfless and a servant leader. You deserve that type of leadership. Tonight, you've heard a lot of what we would do in certain situations for our city. But I also hope that you've heard that I've talked about things I've already done and things that I'm currently doing. Providing homeless support, taking homeless single moms and their families from poverty into sustainability, community beautification. It's time for us to choose leadership that leads by example. It's time for us to choose leadership that puts you first, every citizen, every community in this city. I want to be your mayor. I ask you to go to electkennyhill.com so you can see my plan for bringing peace to Atlanta.
Rebecca King.
I would like to first thank the organizers for inviting all of the candidates. That has been an interesting part of this journey, is finding out who is equitable and including all, so I appreciate that, number one. I'm here Atlanta is facing some challenging times, and I'm here to rejuvenate her spirit. And so I appreciate you giving me the time tonight and for you to take your time to research your candidates and not just let people tell you for whom to vote. You've heard our ideas. You can look at our solutions and pick who is best to lead Atlanta forward for many years to come. Take a look at my website if you would like to hear more from me or talk to me. You can go to voterebeccaking.com, and I would be honored to be your mayor.
Felicia Moore.
Again, thank you, League of Women Voters and all your partners. My name is Felicia Moore, a candidate for mayor who is day one ready to make our city safer, no matter what neighborhood you live in or what your income bracket is. I also want to make sure that we get the city services that we pay for. And I also want to make sure that we do it transparently so that you know how your money is being spent and that it's being spent wisely and not abused. I also want to make sure it's an ethical government. I have served with integrity and will continue to do that as your mayor. And I also want to make sure that we're accountable to you, the people that we serve, and that we're held accountable when we don't serve appropriately. Again, my name is Felicia Moore, and I want to be our next mayor. And I ask you to join me, join our team at FeliciaMooreForMayor.com. Atlanta deserves more.
Kasim Reed.
A mayor has no more important obligation than to keep the people of the city safe, so that when you leave, that you have an environment where you're going to do something, hopefully, that you love and care about, but also to make sure that when you get back home and you stick that key on the door, that we get you back safely to whomever is on the other side of it. In 2017, just a short while ago, leading organizations in the world, like Emory University and the Centers for Disease Control, and 6,000 residents, raised their hand and said, we want to be a part of the city of Atlanta. An important part of that was that we made the city the safest that it had been in generations. Today, 20% of the people of Atlanta are raising their hands to leave because crime has increased 58% and 155 people were murdered last year. I understand the assignment, and I will keep you safe if elected. Thank you.
Roosevelt Sears.
So again, my name is Roosevelt Sears III, and I left this out, but I am a business owner, an author, and a founder of the National Fresh Start and Assistance Institute, which is a nonprofit organization aimed at providing resources and a pathway for youth and homeless individuals. No matter the results of this campaign, I'm a person, not a politician. Never been in an elected position, and I really am not fond of politics. But I'm a solution guy. I see a lot of problems and I have a lot of solutions. I believe that we need a fresh face and we can't attack new issues with old tactics. We have about a few individuals who collectively have over 40 years of experience in city government here, and I believe that we can't go backwards. We got to look to the future. Thank you for being here tonight, and drive safe.
Richard Wright.
I'd like to thank everyone in the audience. I'd like to thank the sponsors. I'd like to thank our moderator. My name is Richard Wright, and I'm a new voice with a new vision for the city of Atlanta, a new leader who will provide leadership. And I just want to ask the audience a couple of questions. Are you a taxpayer? If the answer is yes, I want to be your mayor so that that the mayor's office can lead with financial discipline. Are you a parent? If the answer is yes, I want to make sure that there's after-school programs for your kids at Parks and Recs. Are you a citizen who's concerned about the racial animosity in the city? If the answer is yes, I want to be a mayor so that I can get us, the city of Atlanta, talking again to each other and not at each other. Are you a small business owner? If the answer is yes, as a CPA, I have years of working with you. Think about and imagine what a CPA in the mayor's office can bring to the city in terms of the skill set and knowledge that I bring. So my name is Richard Wright, a new voice with a new vision. Thank you again for having me.
Glenn Wrightson.
Glenn Wrightson. Recent polls show that 40% of the voters are undecided. This tells me that voters are questioning the idea of drawing leadership from this same bubble pool of candidates that we've had in the past. And we need a new person that will energize the city's workforce. We want to have a leader that is a good steward of the city resources and the money that comes into the city. That's so important. And that's where I come in. I'm a doer. And my little campaign slogan is solutions before politics. Some have said that we might ought to have two mayors, one for the developers and one for the citizens. I would be the citizens' mayor. What we need is smart government. That's the key. We need smart government. And that's where I come in. Glenn Wrightson for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Please give them a round of applause. And thank you for showing up and being here and listening to the candidates. The one thing I have done is been able to know who all is running, and I think that's very important as well. So without further ado, thank you. It's been an honor to be your moderator, and now I turn the program over to Nancy Flake Johnson, who's president of the Urban League of Greater Atlanta.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yes, please give Jocelyn and all of our candidates another warm round of applause. Thank you for sticking with us, for showing up tonight, for having the courage and the tenacity and commitment and passion to bring your talents to bear to make our city and our citizens better. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts of all of our sponsors tonight. So to the audience, I just want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. You've made it clear you're not going to be standing on the sidelines. You want to be engaged. You want to know your candidates, what they stand for. We're in serious times. Affordable housing, crime, closing the racial wealth gap, homelessness. The challenges are so deep and so complicated. So to take the time, it's critical that we do, to hear from each of these candidates what their plans are, what their experience is, and what they'll bring to the city. So thank you for investing your time in this way. We ask that you encourage others to do the same. The Urban League, the League of Women Voters, the Urban League and ACLU also invite you to our next forum, which will be on October 12th. And in addition to the mayor, we also are electing the president of the city council, which will be the focus of the next forum, and of course, city council members from across all of the districts in the city. With that, I'm going to close. I know you're tired. I want to say thank you again. I learned so much from each and every one of you. We just need to take all your great ideas and bring them to fruition and work together. I love that unity piece. So thank you all. Have a good night. Be safe. See you at the next forum. Thank you. You did.